You can go on and talk while she zooms in.
So the Cordyceps technique is comprised of several hand positions. It starts from the back of the skull and slowly move forward all the way up to the forehead and to just above the eyebrows. And the last hand position ends with the person holding their hands on both sides of their head. So as they're progressively going through each of these hand positions, there's also a tapping that we use in the BodyTalk system, a gentle tapping on the head and a gentle tapping right here on the breastbone. And that actually is a very integral part of BodyTalk.
Now, I've heard of the, I think it's EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique.
Right.
Isn't there tapping done with that?
Yeah, there are actually a lot of modalities these days, it seems, that are incorporating tapping into their systems. But what makes the BodyTalk system's tapping unique is that there is only this tapping here on the head and the tapping on the chest. And so when we tap on the head, we're always making sure to tap on both sides of the head, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, because we want the whole brain being activated. So that's what this tapping is doing. It's getting the brain to activate, to pay attention, to wake up and say, hey, there's an imbalance here. There's a system, there's a program here that needs to take place. Go ahead and run that program. So we're sending that message to the brain when we tap on the head. And then when we tap on the chest, we're actually tapping into the heart complex and the heart energy, sending the message to the heart and say, hey, heart, the brain's doing this, it's setting something in motion, now store that, remember that by heart.
Well, I know there's a lot of research that shows massage therapy, therapeutic touch, healing touch is good, it's healthy. Any research done on BodyTalk?
You know, there's been a lot of clinical findings and subjective data. We're in the process, there's an aspect of the professional organization called the International BodyTalk Foundation, which is dedicated to more of the research and development of the BodyTalk system. The BodyTalk system is really quite amazing, and the professional organization is quite amazing because it's attracted a huge spectrum of experts from many healthcare fields, scientists and researchers, medical doctors, as well as practitioners and lay people with no type of healthcare background at all. So there are people in the International BodyTalk Association who are really focusing on more of the research aspect of BodyTalk, and we have an academic committee of people like James Oshman, who you may have heard of, who is one of the leading researchers in energy medicine. He's actually on our academic committee providing valuable input into the development of the system.
All right. Well, it sounds like after someone takes your workshop, they have the skills to go and practice that night or the next day.
Yeah, well, the BodyTalk Access class, usually that's taught in a one-day format of a full day of 6 to 8 hours, and the class that's coming up at Infinity is being taught over 3 consecutive days. But definitely after taking that class, and even after taking the basic level class, which is modules 1 and 2, which is a four-day class, and even after reading the BodyTalk book and reading some of the techniques that are described in there, people can get some pretty phenomenal results from those techniques.
What are some of the results your students and clients have reported?
Students and clients, well, some of the you know, again, it runs the whole spectrum. So there are results such as migraines disappearing, improvement in vision, improvement in digestion. So people who may have had chronic constipation or IBS, things along those lines, those have cleared up. But then there are also some more chronic or difficult cases which people have experienced some pretty phenomenal results with, such as, I remember my first 2 success stories, so to speak, with the BodyTalk system was a woman whose ovarian cysts cleared up after 1 session. And then another person whose lymphoma went into remission after 3 sessions.
Okay.
So those were really 2 of my
Is it possible
success.
for an ovarian cyst to heal itself on its own, or does it need a little extra help?
Well, that's one of the basic premises of the BodyTalk system, that the body has an incredible ability to heal and to repair itself.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Anything else you want to say about the body's natural healing system?
Um, wow, that's a stumper of a question.
Well, let me throw it. You talk about the body's ability to heal itself. What about the mind?
Well, again, it's all interconnected. So actually, one of the descriptions of the BodyTalk system and one of the philosophies or backgrounds that the BodyTalk system draws on, as you read in the back of the book, is advanced yoga. And when we're talking about advanced yoga, when people think about yoga, they often think of Hatha yoga or Iyengar or something along those lines where people are doing postures. But in this case, when we're talking about advanced yoga, we're really talking about a yoga called Jnana yoga, Jnana yoga, which is the yoga of the mind. And so in the BodyTalk system, we really draw more so and really get into it more at the advanced levels of using this yoga of the mind to deconstruct the mind. So using the mind to deconstruct the mind, because the mind really holds this whole collage of attitudes, beliefs, habit patterns that really set us up for disaster. And so,
Or disease.
Or disease,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, because in the Far East they'd say it's an illusion.
Right.
And so we strive for ego death.
Right.
Or no mind.
Right, right. And so a lot of the BodyTalk system, in my mind, is bringing some of those Eastern philosophies, some of those Eastern traditions of working with energy and working with the concept of illusion and no mind, and bringing that and putting it into a westernized context. So in the beginning, when I talked about how the BodyTalk system uses the fundamental principles of science and math, we're really talking about science, physics, modern physics, quantum physics, which is really a westernized interpretation of the Eastern philosophies. So it really is a melding, again, of left and right brain, East and West.
Well, I've heard of quantum psychology. How does BodyTalk use quantum physics?
That is a pretty deep question, and we can go on for a long time about that. And quantum physics is something that always comes into play from the most basic level of BodyTalk Access, the one-day class, to the basic modules 1 and 2 of BodyTalk, all the way to the most advanced level of BodyTalk, which is called Parama BodyTalk. And one of the basic fundamental principles that is always brought into play during a BodyTalk session is that, according to quantum physics, there are no fundamental building blocks of the universe, and that no thing exists in and of itself. Everything is dependent upon everything. And so those two principles, along with the idea that when you observe something, it changes. Not when you try to not when you try to change something, it changes.
Well, it's the
When you
observer
observe it.
effect. You can't observe something without having an effect.
Exactly.
The classic example, first time we discovered that was with experiments of light, because whether
Right.
a person set up a single slit experiment or double slit experiment determined whether the observers were seeing a particle or a wave.
Right, right. And then there's also the example, which I've come across several times recently, of Schrodinger's cat,
Yeah.
where the cat is simultaneously alive and dead. It just depends on the observer.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of quantum physics. You can have A and not A. You can have two opposites
Right.
are one and the same.
Right.
It's just a matter of consciousness.
Right, exactly. And that, the consciousness work is really something that the BodyTalk system, a level at which the BodyTalk system thrives. Because in the BodyTalk system, again, we're going back to the masculine and feminine balance. We're going into exploring the ideas of paradox. And it really is that struggle that we all have with duality and the idea of paradox that causes us a lot of the stress, which then results in disease.
like men and women are one and the same, right?
Yes. We're all human.
Yeah. Now, I could see how BodyTalk would be great for the average person who doesn't have a discipline like yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong. But what about someone who's let's say I've been practicing, somebody says, I've been practicing yoga for 10 years, I don't need to BodyTalk. What do you say to that person?